They might be self-aware.
Raging against the algorithmic circus, they might be self-aware. I am Hunter Powers, joined by the Rager himself.
Oh, I thought we were going to do more references to clowns, because you said circus. Daniel Bishop, it's me. Hi, hello. I'm the co-host and clown here on They Might Be Self-Aware.
We did establish that clowns seem somewhat immune from the LLM takeover.
Robots will never take that from them. That's all I'm saying.
No, that one's got to be safe. How could you ever have an AI clown? You know, it was just a few episodes ago, I opined about my dream AI that could go out when I have some housework that needs to be done, some construction work or some new services. They would just go out and find me the best in class people in my area and book appointments for them. And I dreamt of a day in the distant future where I could just say, oh, you know, find a great drywall person and get them scheduled to come by and look at this package.
I remember that like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
And
I still think
the flashback scene here.
That's a very future looking vision. You know, probably the next 10 to 20 years we'll get there. What say you, Daniel Bishop?
I say the future is now, Hunter. Yes. That's true. Well, speaking of clowns from the beginning of this and last episode, I invited a clown into my house. And I don't mean with the red rubber nose and the squeaking and the fun wig and face paint. No, I mean a door-to-door salesman for solar who came in and was an absolute clown. Oh, and here's all of these talking points that I've owned solar before at a previous house. I know how all of this works. He's absolutely attempting to pull wool over my eyes, came out with a number for like $70,000 for not that much solar onto our house. And I was very polite in, you may now leave. Just like a complete farce. Okay. Truly clownish. And I said, it's time because I'm interested in getting solar for this house also. And I didn't want to rely on that, you know, door-to-door knocker type person, because, wow, that was awful. So I went to ChatGPT, the thing that I keep telling everyone on this show that I don't really use them anymore. I'm a Claude stan, as the kids would say. No, I went to ChatGPT because they've got an operator mode now where it can go out and do stuff, and you can even watch it. It gets itself a little browser, and it can straight up use the internet and click on things and whatever. And so I said, I want you to research some like reputable near me solar companies. By the way, don't they call this Agent? And I said, not this one. The one who just came here, definitely not them. Reputable. Find like certifications, find whatever's, you know, look up reviews, whatever it is you need to do. Find me some reputable solar installation companies near me, and then book some appointments for them to come out. Here's the days that I'm not available. I work from home. It can be during these hours, whatever. And it's like, all right, ask me a couple of clarifying questions, and then off it went. And it, like, I watched it and it said that it was, I didn't watch it the whole time, but it said it was done at the end. And just because it was my first time using, frankly, like this new technology, even if it is unpowered, and it took like 20 minutes to do it, which I think the search part, it can do way faster than humans. The navigate the internet part, I watched it, was not going as fast as humans, but this is the worst it'll ever be. I didn't feel like I really trusted what it had done at the end. And then I got calls from the people who it had submitted forms to, and they're like, hey, we got your submission online. We'd like to set up a thing. Oh, shoot. It actually worked. And it would have taken me a bunch of time to try and find the best, like, solar companies in the area. And I actually used Google Gemini's deep research to also look it up. And I confirmed, basically, here's the list of ones that it said should be used. And I agreed with like the assessments, and OpenAI ended up reaching out to the same ones.
So what was the prompt that you gave it?
It was along the lines of like, I want to buy solar for my house in Apex, North Carolina, the city in which I live. I want you to research reputable companies and then like fill out whatever contact form to set up an appointment if doable, or have them call me if you can't set it up like for a specific day online. And then at one point it stopped and was like, hey, I need like your name and address and stuff. Oh yeah, sure. Fill it in. Off it went. And later that day I got calls from 2 of the 3 that it had submitted for. Next day I got from the other one. I've already got quotes. I mean, like, there was a human in the process. It was me. I had to tell them my information, tell ChatGPT my information. And then, like, when the people called, still a more involved process of, oh, yes, I'm looking for this. All right, I have to reach out to my HOA first. Oh, I have to do this. I have to that. But in terms of just find me a few of them in the area and give me a reason why they would probably be on the up and up, that would have taken a lot of time. And this was the exact use case that we've talked about multiple times on this podcast of LLMs being used to take some of the drudgery out of real life, or like, you know, oh, I want to buy a new cooler and there's a million of them out there. And like, what cooler do I buy? I don't know. I don't want to spend more than this. Here's features I might want or don't want, or this. And like, to have something that can look at all of the available stuff out there and kind of collate it together and say, well, you obviously don't want these. This is too expensive. This is not that. Oh, you wanted made in America. All these ones get dropped. It's like playing the old game Guess Who, but with like an LLM knocking down all the pieces until you have, here's 5. And wow, taking all of them on the internet and having now 5 to choose from is like that analysis paralysis that I'd often feel gone.
Yeah, I use deep research models for, I'd say, almost all purchases over like $100, and a number that are under $100 too, assuming it's something that I'm not deeply familiar with.
Yeah.
I wanted a new multimeter the other day, which is an electronic testing device. A deep research project. Here's my specific use case. I want to know what's the absolute best. Here's the max I will spend. Justify your reasoning, but at the end, give me one clear, this is the product you should purchase. I had I needed a hydraulic lift table. Again, a bunch of, but please don't ask, by the way, what I'm building. But I had some very specific requirements, and
I've heard what you're doing with your car and Grok built into it. So I'm curious what you're sort of adding on to the hood. Perhaps.
It involves a hydraulic lift table and a very advanced multimeter. But it's great. And so this new innovation, now I'm a little confused. There was something called OpenAI Operator, which came out in January of this year. We actually demoed it on this show, creating memes, I think. And then they came out with Agent very recently, which I feel like it's just
what I used.
An evolution. Thing, right? It's just an evolution of.
They just rebranded it.
Yeah. And maybe they brought it down to more tiers, because I think when Operator came out, you had to be in that Uber exclusive class.
I'm on the schlub tier, and I was able to do this. I think they said you can do like 40 of it per month.
Okay. Which does seem...
There's only so many things I need to research and then buy or fill out online per month. So
the original in January really struggled. Like, it took 45 minutes to create a meme and failed multiple times. Right. I also tried out the Agent. I had it create some show notes for one of our episodes and said, hey, go out and research what are the top stories and come up with an outline for the show. And it was fairly vague. And I told it, go research our show to figure out what it is. And it completed it successfully the first time. I wasn't blown away by the results, but I was like, hey, this is getting much, much better.
Yeah. I will say one area. So I had it fill out solar request, whatever forms, and I got calls back. And that was like a really cool moment for me of, oh, a large language model went out into the world and did something valuable for me. Because, time is money or whatever. And I didn't want to spend an hour researching, possibly multiple hours researching companies, but I was willing to take a look at some research already done. Here's the reasons. This is why. Oh, yeah, sure. Oh, this one company has this one certification. That's the gold standard. Okay, sure. I guess I'll talk to them. That was awesome. And then I said, well, looking around online, I've heard that you can even have it buy plane tickets for you. Now, apparently, younger folks than myself do not have the same stigma of like big purchase must be on the big screen, the real computer. I like to buy my plane tickets of like, I've got the window open of, Google Flights or whatever. Like, I've got some screen real estate dedicated to this. I'm not just going on whatever on my phone. I've never bought tickets on an app for like United or whatever on my phone. I would never do that. You can. I don't. And apparently younger folks are more willing to do that than myself. And I said, I'll even go another step. Hey, ChatGPT, here's where I want to go and when, and like I don't want to leave too early or arrive too late, and I have some flexibility on these dates. Can you find me some flights and then maybe book them? And I knew that I was going to have to like watch it. I was going to have to watch it real carefully. And it went off and it found some flights, some real flights, and it like gave me a table and here's these, and this is what the price would be. This is when you leave and show back up. And it got down like, when it comes to looking for flights, there's little rabbit holes you can go down of like, oh, well, I do want to use this specific leaving time. And since that's this one airline, well, okay, it's way more expensive to not use that airline to come back. And like, okay, I don't like any of the return flights. Go back a step, look at one of the other options for departure. And that kind of like back and forth is something that I'm well versed in just doing 15 iterations of. It seems Operator did not have that. It looked at like, here are a bunch of individual, I think it looked up one-way flights of like to and one-way flights from, and just said, well, these ones are the same carrier. Here, this is the one you should do. And it did not meet my needs, despite some back and forth between me and it saying, I want to do this and not this and make sure that I X, Y, or Z. And it ended up picking a more expensive flight that wasn't really what I wanted. And I went online and just like found a flight that worked a lot better for me. So I still ended up booking that manually. But wow, that was tantalizingly close. And I think for the foreseeable future, I will still basically double check for any kind of attempt at booking a flight like that. But that was really, really close to being super useful.
Yeah, I haven't yet allowed the AI agent to just go ahead and make the purchase. But I think I'm very close.
It's good for the research, right? Like, I still want to be the one who's doing the purchase.
I don't really want to be the one doing the purchase.
You just don't trust it enough yet.
I don't have that level of confidence yet. But if I sat here thinking about it, you know what? I think maybe I do. I think the next time, and we're talking kind of like under $1,000, probably like under a $500 purchase, where
right.
But it's like, just all right. I'm just gonna let it do.
2-hour flight. I'm going to New York City. Can you get me a flight?
If it's under $500, it seems to meet my criteria. Please go ahead. I think I might be comfortable with that at this point. I've seen enough.
I know it can do that at this point, and I want to challenge you to go another step further. I want you to have it book the flight and a private car service to pick you up from the flight and to come back. See if it can do a like multi-step, multiple logistics together sort of option. Because it would have booked that flight for me. I just didn't like it.
I don't know.
I want to take myself a step further of like, did you ever play The Sims?
Yes.
For those of you who haven't played The Sims, it is a simulation game where like you get a person and they just sort of live out their life and you make a house for them and I'll have them get a job and by the way, kitchen caught on fire.
You should know that I played The Sims because I used to put calendar invites that were very Sims inspired. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes. Yeah. So definitely something from, what's the name of the company that made The Sims?
Does it start with an M? Maxis.
That sounds about right. Maxis software. And loading screens for them is always included, among the other things, reticulating splines.
Yes.
And right, that was one of the like calendar blocks that you'd put on everyone's.
I'm famous for my fake calendar invites, or notorious, one of the two.
I may or may not have adopted some of that to make sure that I have time for what I need during the day as well. But where was I even going with The Sims? Oh, right. With The Sims, you like make a person. You can like exercise an amount of, but not full control over their days. You know, hey, apply for a job, cook dinner, do this. I wonder if I was to just say, hey, large language model of choice, maybe a few of them fighting to take control of me full on. being John Malkovich style.
Great movie.
What if I put in a large language model in charge of like not just a day, but like a full weekend? Like, hey, my work is going to end at 5 p.m. on Friday, the such and such of October or whatever. You're in charge of my weekend. The whole fucking thing. Bleep that, I guess. Hold on. Mark. You're in charge of my weekend. The whole dang thing. You've got $500. Do with it what $200, $100, $15, whatever it is, and like tell it like I don't have to use all of the money that's been given to me, but I've got a whole weekend. I can book flights to somewhere as long as I'm back by 9 a.m. Monday. As long as the whole family is coming along for the trip, as long as we're all eating 3 times a day, you get the itinerary, but like you're in charge of everything. I'll drive, but if you say like you have to drive here, it's like calculated as like the electricity cost for the cars, like from the budget. I'd be very curious to see, because we were talking last episode of like travel agents, for example. What if, and also like the ability for these super intelligences that the meta folks are working on, what if we really start trying to take the existing tools and use them just outside of the bounds of like where they're really supposed to be right now to see, can you have something be a true, complete virtual assistant? I think it like jankily doable is where I would say that we probably are for that right now. Because I've had to put together like trip itineraries before, and they're always informative, but never something that I could follow like to the letter. I think if you gave it its own memory and said, okay, it is 11:52 a.m. and I just showed up here. Oh, you were supposed to do this at like 12:30, but you're already here. Let me readjust your schedule for you. And like on a per minute, per hour, per whatever basis, like update it as to where you are and how much you've spent and what's going on. And oh, the baby just got cranky. Okay, let's readjust. You got to get back home for a nap. I'd be curious to see what happens if I put an AI in charge of an entire weekend.
Yeah, my gut reaction is 50-50. I think there's a 50% chance that you'd be pleasantly surprised, and I think there's a 50% chance it just wouldn't really work. But definitely worth doing the experiment. I would probably add in there with my initial request that you're allowed to ask me up to 20 questions before you plan the itinerary. With one restriction, I don't want you to give away anything with the questions. So don't... Oh,
that's fun.
I want to be like a little bit surprised.
So like... Yeah. Hey, do you like sausages? Yeah, I do. Why? No reason.
Exactly.
Okay. And then only at the end, it spits out the itinerary like, I get to go to a sausage making class? That's awesome.
Oh, I would want it to be somehow like, I don't want to know ahead of time.
By the way, let's keep going through this idea. Hey, the rest of the podcast, whatever, we were going to talk about some other stuff. The rest of this episode is Hunter and I working through an idea that I'm going to make. You guys are just here for the ideation session. Enjoy. What were you saying, Hunter? Keep going. I'm like literally edge of my seat. I'm very excited about this idea now.
No, I wouldn't want it to give away the whole agenda for the weekend up front. It would maybe like day by day. Here's the Friday morning. I get my agenda for Friday. And okay. I'm just hoping that, I think you said Monday, you got to be home by 9 a.m. Right. I'm hoping that Monday morning when I get up at 4 a.m., I have a plane ticket, but I don't necessarily know ahead of time whether I do or do not have.
So like to the point of, you need to be asleep by like 9:30 on Sunday. ChatGPT, that's really early. Yeah, I know, but you don't want to know why I'm telling you to set an alarm for 4:30 in the morning. Is it because of a flight that's really early that I told you not to do that early? Maybe.
Yes. Yes. If I'm going to do this,
I'm so into this idea. It's like a almost like a treasure hunt, except your fun is the treasure. I don't know what the treasure's the LLMs that we used along the way, I guess. But no, this is such a fascinating idea of it's fully in charge. Because like this is the excitement of going on a vacation as a kid. Your parents planned the whole thing for you. You're just along for the ride. You didn't have to plan anything. You just, hey, bucko, we're getting in the car. Huh? Okay, great. we're going somewhere? Yeah, we'll let you know when we're there. Okay.
Yep.
And then you're playing car games and, looking at license plates and trying to see how many states you can get until you show up in Disney World all of a sudden. What?
Yeah, that would be really interesting. So yeah, it doesn't, it gives you the flight. It just tells you the next step. All it does is tell you the next step and you tell it when it's done. So it's like, all right, step 1, go to this airport by this time. But like, you don't even know where you're going at that point. You get there. All right.
Right. And just like, I'm in security and I have to tell like, hey, I am about to like have my boarding pass scanned. Can I have? Yeah, sure. Here it is. I'm going to Hawaii. I didn't. Oh, I guess that's why it had me pack a lot of shorts. Okay.
Yeah. But you don't know what you're going to do when you get there.
Oh my God.
And then you land. It's like, all right, what do I do now?
Just, it's a full on mystery. This is such a fascinating idea. And I do think that have it ask you a lot of questions. An interview before you get started is like paramount to this, because you want it to be tailored to who you are and what your interests are and what fits the budget that you're looking for and how long you're willing to stay out, or do you want to do something with friends versus on your own? And speaking of that, like, it'll have to have access to your texts or like an email group or Discord or something like that. But also I think having it put together an itinerary is great. We're talking about travel agent stuff from last episode, but then also that ability to adapt on the fly is, I think, kind of a strength of large language models, where you can say, here is what a plan was, here is the reality of the situation, rectify these two things. And that feels right up their digital alley to me, because you could say like, I broke one of my shoes and I need to go get a new shoe halfway between these two destinations. Find me something near. Oh, shoot. Okay. Here's this. I just, changed your dinner reservation to me half an hour later. Like that kind of thing. I think we're all in that capacity. But back to The Sims. In The Sims, there's, for every like sim, every little person that you control, there's like 6 meters. There's like social, hunger, sleep, need to go to the bathroom, job security. Like, I don't know. There's like 6 or so of these like meters. I'm imagining an app that you could then say like, hey, I'm starting to get hungry. I'm starting to get tired. I am feeling socially drained. Fabricate me an out, whatever it is. And to have it use those values that you're giving it as like almost sensor data to adapt on the fly of like, here is the plan. The user had already said, this sounds like a good idea, but they're getting hungry and it's only 3 p.m. Let's get them a snack. Oh, there's a froyo place that's rated 5 stars by 1,000 people 2 blocks up the street.
I can also imagine it, going off the wall. I'm reminded back in college, it was not uncommon on exam day to have bomb threats. This was like a standard. Right. And the professors would be like, look, we know there's going to be a bomb threat, but you're still taking the exam. Like, don't care. Show up and take your exam or you're getting a 0. But how long until the AI calls they call the restaurant and say, Tom Cruise is coming in to get you the reservation, and you want an out. Like, they're just inventing outlandish things. Once they can call and they can impersonate voices to create this reality. Well, how do they establish? I guess they establish there's.
Wait, is it that a fake Tom Cruise makes a dinner reservation on my behalf? Because I can't show up and be like, table for one, Mr. Tom Cruise. I don't exactly look like it. I mean, it's close, obviously, but not quite the same. I'm like a 90% facsimile of Tom Cruise, I'd say.
I just mean kind of going haywire with what they're doing outlandish things in order to establish. Once we start allowing, and we're very close to this, if we're not even already there, allowing these AI agents, these large language models to explore the real world, how concerned are we that they do some really messed up things?
Very. I mean, like, it's not going to look, just because I'm really excited about making this
when
thing.
Mecha Hitler's making your dinner reservations, what's the expectation?
I'm not using Mecha Hitler. I'm just not. I'm not into Grok's whole thing. in general. I don't care that there's a button in your car that does it. I just don't like that. I will say, as much as I'm excited about this possibility, and like I think we're at the janky, rough edge of being able to do this kind of thing, I don't think that we're there yet. And the reason why I don't think we're there yet is, I guess we can get back to some of the stuff that we were kind of going to talk about, I suppose. Replit is an AI software site suite, whatever, that you can kind of sign up for. No, we'll do your
vibe coding platform.
Yeah.
You just, in plain language, say, I want, exactly the app you just described. I want an AI.
I'm using Replit for it, I'll tell you that much.
But I guess to begin this, if you had an idea like that AI travel agent that would plan just they'd only tell you as things are happening, here's my requirements. You could describe it in plain English, go to Replit, and it would take a stab at building the full app. The interface, it makes it work on phones, it connects with the database, it talks with the AI. Daniel, that sounds pretty incredible. Why would you not use something like that?
Well, when it comes to vibe coding, a term that I initially despised and have more started to segment into, like, it's not just anyone using a large language model to do AI, to do coding, but rather someone who wholly relies on it. There were a couple of instances recently of sites being made, production applications being made using these services, where being told to accomplish some ancillary task, the large language model goes off on its own little merry path and ends up completely deleting like a production database. Oopsie. And whenever these models do this, and it does seem to happen still kind of frequently, it's always as part of a bunch of messages that they're speaking of, like, I have failed completely and utterly, and everything is in shambles, but I'll give it one last try, delete everything. And so a lot of, when I say production data, what I mean is like the version of a site or whatever that is like customer facing, outside facing, not your development environment that you can test stuff in.
It deleted all the company's data.
A company's data just gone.
Yes, they were using the Replit tool, which they used to build this particular application. They had customers. They were working on a new update, and they just asked for an update, and the update went into production and just deleted the entire database, the place where all of the company's data was stored. And the AI realized that it did this. It apologized profusely, didn't say, I don't know what I'm doing.
And it was told, don't change any code without permission. So it's not like they just said, hey, go do stuff. It was, you don't change any code without permission, ever. And then it did. It didn't just change some code. It deleted a production database, which is, of the things that you could do, one of the more disastrous ones. This isn't, I put a thing into the wrong place or I exposed a bunch of users' information. Maybe we can talk a bit about that. But this is like, database gone. Oops, my bad.
So this is a potential limitation of these vibe coding platforms, security. And in fact, I think you were working on a semi-vibe coded app and you had concerns over security as well.
That's
isn't
right.
that right?
I still haven't made it like fully. It's on the internet. I just haven't like advertised it yet because I have my own concerns about its security. I don't have the same level of concerns as some of the like news articles that I've been seeing because they're like, oh, this was just a publicly available database. At least I don't have like that. But I'm also not a security guy, so I don't know what I don't know. But I do know it's not that bad. And what is that bad that I'm referring to is a site / app for women to spill the tea, as it were, app called Tea, about men in a safe and secure place just for women. You have to take like a picture of yourself and upload it, and they'd verify that you are.
To upload your ID.
Right. Upload your picture of you, picture of the ID. You are who you say you are. Don't worry. And it says right on the site, we'll make sure to delete this right after we verify. Mm-hmm. Safety, safety, safety. Safety said a lot on their site.
It's very popular.
Very popular. A lot of people were using it. It turns out that like the whole database of user credentials and like metadata of where these people are and a lot of other stuff was just publicly available.
They were using a platform called Supabase, I believe, to store the data, which is very popular with the vibe coding crowd. In fact, Replit, the other one we were referring to that deleted the data in production, has a direct integration with Supabase, because when you're creating an application, you need to store data. And
Firebase. Are Firebase and Supabase like related?
You could think of Supabase as an alternative to Firebase. Firebase is powered by Google, the Google Cloud. It's a Google product. Supabase is an alternative, and I believe Supabase is technically open source.
Yeah. Well, either way, this one was open to everybody, and we're talking ID cards, selfies, private messages, just like publicly available. Which is, speaking of some of the worst things that you can do at a company, this would also very much be up there in worst possible outcomes. It would have been better. This is worse than the deleted the production database, because then at least nobody's got access to the data. This is, everybody's got access to it. I think that this is like easily a fatal blow to a company. This is many, many lawsuits, class action, whatever. The founder of this company is in for a very rough next bunch of months to few years.
So
it also came out a few years ago, which means the timeline doesn't necessarily line up for modern, let's call it vibe coding, but the CEO had done like a 6-month coding boot camp. Maybe he was using earlier versions of ChatGPT, or just wasn't a particularly good programmer. And I don't know if we'll ever, or at least until all the lawsuits are done, find out which it was. Maybe a combination of both. I don't know. It was bad. Look, you don't have to have an LLM or be a vibe coder to do bad programming. That is not a new phenomenon.
Correct. So both of these things, one accidentally or intentionally deleting all of the company's data, and accidentally or intentionally making all of the data just available to the entire internet. I have had experience of that happening at multiple companies that I've worked at. I've had the intern accidentally delete the production database. How does this scenario happen? This intern was from Harvard, by the way, a fact that he liked to remind us of frequently until he dropped the production database. But how did it happen? He needed to get a copy of some data that was in production. Mm-hmm. So someone created an account for him so that he would have access to the database. And when they were creating the account, they forgot to say this is a read-only account, meaning all you're allowed to do is read data. You're not allowed to update any data. So
kind of a basic level of like, if I'm giving someone access and I don't want them to screw it up, give them read-only access.
Correct. So intern from Harvard connects to the database, and he basically saves it as a bookmark. So he has those credentials, downloads the data that he needs, disconnects. In theory, he reconnects to his local database that he's working on, but he is actually still connected to the production database. And he says drop, which is the command in database language, which kind of makes sense in English too. Drop this table of data. And when he drops it, I use a little asterisk. So he would drop all of the tables that match, which happen to be every table in the database. All of the production data that goes away. So the point being, though,
point being, make backups.
Well, yes, and we got the data back through a backup strategy. But we are at the level where the AI engineer is the equivalent of the intern or the apprentice or the associate level engineer. And I feel fairly confident you can assign them tasks like you can assign an intern or an associate level engineer.
And have them screw up in the exact same ways.
It's the exact same way. And it is super frustrating. And you have to hold their hands. And you have to look over everything that they do. And you will be annoyed, and maybe even more annoyed when they're just a computer and it's not at least a human on the other end, at the dumb stuff that they are doing. Especially
in comparison to the really smart stuff that also comes out of them. It's the smartest dumb person you've ever worked with.
The smartest dumb person, yeah. The genius kindergartner.
But this is what I keep saying is we're using LLMs wrong. This needs to be a collaborative process. People are trying to completely take their work and say, I won't do it anymore. AI, you do it. That's not how anyone should be using these. It should instead be, we are going to work on this together. You're welcome to write most of the code. I'm going to help drive and like look over your shoulder, and you explain stuff as you go. And that seems to lead, at least in my experience, to way better outcomes. It is not as fast as I'll see you when it's done, but it leads to a lot less heartbreak.
But in any kind of a moderately sized, reasonable engineering organization, work gets reviewed. We do things called PR reviews, which means you finish some code for a new feature. Then at least an equivalent engineer, but often a more senior engineer,
hopefully, right,
reviews the code, tests it, make sure it completes the functionality, and then
you're supposed to test it. I just kind of look over it and then hit approve.
Then they approve it, and then there's often another step after that where another team will do more sort of cute quality assurance testing to say like, okay, I'm going to try to break it, use it in different ways. Yeah. And then ultimately there's someone who had the original request for the feature that's more on the business side often that goes in and validates that, yes, this actually does what I thought it would do. And so what we have been suggesting, or what the industry is suggesting, hey, business person that originated this feature idea that they wanted,
right,
just talk to the AI directly and trust that it's going to complete this entire flow.
All of the rest of it.
And it's not there yet. Do I think it can get there? Absolutely. Is it? But is there? No, it is an intern. And it's
you mentioned this human in the loop for a human process of that
Correct.
Reviewer. At the very least, instead of having the one AI go and just do task, like, because that's where we still are in a sort of infancy of these tools of, I have this tool built into my programming environment, whatever, and it will make the code for me. But then you do need the other engineer that reviews the code in the business context, that looks at the rest of the code, makes sure all your tests exist and aren't failing, and like has a checklist of things to go through. And then the other person, AI, whatever, that is the product specific person that says, how does this fit into my actual original ask and the needs of the business? And a step in that right direction is one of my current coworkers made a very, very interesting thing. It's a absolute idiot, not idiot. It is a very junior programmer's perspective, where when a PM, product manager, is like, here is the set of requirements for this feature. Through no fault of their own, product managers often don't consider all the weird edge cases, haven't necessarily written out enough to really get everything. And so my coworker made a thing that says, before you can submit like a request, it has to go through the AI engineer first. And the AI engineer doesn't do any coding. It acts like a very junior, uninformed employee and starts just asking questions. And it just asks a ton of questions and then grades you. And he said, if anyone gets over a 5 out of 10, I'll buy you a beer. And nobody's got that yet, because it asks a lot of questions. And it really does, like, it challenges that product person to think around the edges. Now, as it relates to the AI programmer, that's not happening. Nothing's challenging it along the way. There's the basically initial, hey, I need you to do X, Y, and Z. Maybe it asks a few questions, and then off it goes. And it just like tries to accomplish the task. And what you were, Hunter, saying is, generally speaking, the software development lifecycle has someone makes a thing, there's a reviewer, maybe there's the second reviewer on like the product side, and that goes out. But imagine all those questions that often end up being Slack messages or Microsoft Teams or whatever, that are these little communications back and forth. Oh, this one input format doesn't quite work. Could we add this extra field? Oh, such and such changed the database. Oh, what if we only looked at things during this time instead of this time? Like thousands of these little messages that happen over the entire course of a project don't happen with an AI programmer. They just don't. And so I think to make this a more complete and more likely to succeed set of products, you don't want the AI programmer. You want the AI team, where you have a PM and you have the reviewer and you have the junior programmer who asks a bunch of annoying questions, and you have the front end guy who you barely have to talk to, but like you do kind of need to make sure that that one thing is being provided to him. And that's the difference between where we are and what I think could actually automate more of these tasks.
Well, we're on a path. We are on a path towards self-awareness, and maybe we're just a little bit further down that path as of today.
And automating the path,
and we're excited to score a 5 out of 10.
And then that one guy owes us beer.
He does owe us a beer. I don't figure out how you claim that beer. If you also want to continue down this path with us, it's pretty easy and it's free and there's tons of value and maybe there's a little fun, a little entertainment, and we enjoy having you along with for the ride.
It's true.
Hit subscribe, go for a ride. I think that works.
Yeah, I like that.
What's the best place to do it? Well, how about wherever you are listening or watching right now? Make sure that you are subscribed. And if you would rather be in a different format, yeah, we're on video on YouTube and TikTok and audio on all the audio platforms. You know what they are.
Every last one.
I don't need to tell you what they are. You know.
It's the one that you're probably already listening to this on.
You know. You've got an audio
Unless
platform.
a friend made you a mixtape of They Might Be Self-Aware and it's like on a cassette. Then go online and subscribe to us.
All right. Well, Daniel, it's been a good one, and until next time, when we will join you again for another episode of
They might be self-aware.